Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather coming at you with another update. In this update, we're talking about a major winter storm with some heavy snow and ice along with an Arctic blast. So before I do get started, if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. And I do ask you to share this video with your friends and family on social media. All right, so let's get started. Here's the latest watches and warnings, and we've got a lot going on this morning with winter storm warnings in Montana. And you can see this classic cross-polar flow really starting to set up. Winter weather advisories in Nebraska, getting into Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. And we also have winter weather advisories and winter storm watches and warnings out for the Northeast. So places like Tennessee, getting into eastern Kentucky, the Virginia, the North Carolina, and all up the coast too. Places like Philly, Boston, New York City, all going to see snow for this particular event that's coming up on later on the night into Sunday. So let me kind of walk you through the details. Here's what's happening as of this morning. Saturday, February the 6th, we've got that snow coming across in Nebraska, getting into portions of Kansas, going into Iowa, and then eventually going into Missouri later on the day. This will continue swinging across, bringing probably 1 to 3 inches in places like St. Louis. Are going to see some snow out of this deal, and kind of a mixed bag for you places maybe on the northern fringes of Arkansas, say in Mountain Home, Arkansas. But this will merge with this southern feature. So what we kind of been looking at is these two systems are going to be technically kind of merging together. And that will actually kind of set the stage for our nor'easter, that's going to be coming up later on tonight going into Sunday. So let me kind of walk you through that. So as we continue through the day, going into the overnight, as we go into Sunday morning, we're going to really start to see the snow start to break out in eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, going into Virginia, and then West Virginia, and maybe a dusting into places like Ohio. As this continues to lift off, it should be snowing in DC by then, say Baltimore, going into Delaware, and all this low pressure will just kind of traverse up the coastline as we go throughout the day. And you can see as we go throughout the day on Sunday, getting into midday, I do feel some of your heavier snowfall totals are going to be taking place by then right up the corridor. So, places like Philly could see easily another 5 inches from this system. Going up to Jersey, there's going to be an eastern Pennsylvania type of event. I'm not really expecting much of anything in places like Pittsburgh. So this is going to be a coastal event as you go up the coast. But yeah, some heavier amounts as we extend the view into the day on Sunday. But what's happening with this storm? We've got this warm air advection that's going to be popping in out ahead of it. This is depicted on the 700 millibar. And yeah, with this warm air advection, that's going to create the lift. And as this low lifts, that's going to create the overriding setup. And that actually should enhance the snowfall totals in these areas. That's why I'm getting a little bit more bullish on this system as this traverses across, because we're going to have a lot of liquid precipitation to work with. And there's going to be a heavier banding that is just literally going to set up right along the coast with this particular event as it continues to lift to the northeast. And as we go throughout the day on a Sunday, getting into the overnight, some of your heavier snows are going to be over, say, Cape Cod could pick up 8 to 12 inches from this setup. Getting more inland, places like into Boston, say 5 inches from this. Getting into Rhode Island, we'll go over some of these snowfall totals, and this will continue lifting off into Vermont, New Hampshire, getting into southern portions of Maine by the time we get into the overnight on Sunday. So this is kind of a quick moving event. It's nothing like the setup you just kind of went through with that kind of a more or less a historic snowstorm that just kind of went through that just took about 4 days to finalize. This is going to be a quick mover. So we're talking, say an 18-hour event from Virginia all the way up to the coast. So it's going to be a fairly quick mover, but some heavier snowfall totals are going to fall along the way. Here's some of your heavier amounts. Say in Knoxville, say 1 to 3 inches. I'm guessing, and eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, as we kind of get up into the interior regions, places like Roanoke, Virginia, almost 7 inches of snow from this particular event. A little bit further south, Greensboro, 2 inches, and you can see Raleigh not really pick them up much of anything. And then maybe Charlotte might get a dusting or two, but not really expecting much from this particular event, as well as Virginia Beach. But going into Richmond, yeah, 5 inches. And then there's DC, expecting about 5 inches from this snowstorm that's coming up on Saturday going into Sunday. And as we continue lifting off all the coast, Harrisburg, almost 6 inches. And as we continue, there's DC again. And then we picking up some of the heavier spots, say Dover, could be 8 inches from this system. And then places inland, say York, 3 to 4 inches. As we continue lifting off into the northeast, here's some of your heavier snowfall totals into Philly, say, 6 inches from this system. Scranton, a little bit lighter amounts further inland, 2 inches, as well as Albany. But along the coast, that's where we're going to be picking up some of your heavier snowfall totals. New York City, another 7 inches after you just picked up 18 inches from that last event. And some of your heavier snowfall totals you can see right along the coast. Providence, 6 inches. Going up by the Cape, 8 to 12 inches from this system, and a little bit lighter amounts into Boston. As we continue lifting up the coast, then you can see it kind of fades out as this storm kind of winds down. But Bangor could be picking up another couple of inches, say anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. That's in southern portions of Maine. But now let's take a look at the Arctic blast with this system. Here's the initial setup by Tuesday. They're already going to be dealing with that by Saturday and by this morning into the northern tiers, where they're going to be having wind chill advisories of 40 degrees below zero. So this is some dangerously Arctic air that's on the way. And by Tuesday, that Arctic air will take the first initial surge. It's a step down process. It'll take the first initial surge all the way into Texas. So these are wind chills getting, below zero in a good chunk of the central U.S. by the time Tuesday rolls around. But as we get beyond that, here's a setup that I'm looking for the Deep South. I mean, I've been watching this Southern Oscillation Index. You can see it's basically been steadily falling really ever since the first week of January. And as we got towards February, it continues its fall. So what that basically means is, as this colder air starts to penetrate and go further south into the Deep South, we also have a Southern Oscillation Index that's also going to be more active. That creates the southern branch of the Pacific jet stream to become more active, and it sets up more of a typical February type pattern where we could have more events of creating snow and ice events for the South, because we'll have low pressures traversing all the way down to the Deep South as we have cold air pressing from the north. That will create the overriding conditions for the Deep South to set up snow and ice setups further along the south and the southeast. So as we continue through, say, Wednesday, we can see that cold air pressing, and yeah, we've got more snows already kind of setting up over Missouri again, Illinois and Indiana, because this is a very active pattern, and you can kind of see some of the ice starting to break out and a little bit further south as we go throughout the day on Wednesday. And by Thursday, as that Arctic air continues to press and we have that second surge, and I do think the Arctic air really starts to infringe into Texas and starts penetrating, the Dallas-Fort Worth area all the way down into Austin by then, that will start to create some more ice even further south. So we could be talking some ice into Arkansas by then, and places, further south. You can see this banding of this Arctic air really starting to intrude. And here's the low. See, here's your Southern Oscillation Index creating southern features, and that's your low pressures. And there's going to be more of these as we continue getting into the middle of February. So by the time Thursday rolls around, I mean, you can really kind of see the wind chills are starting to creep into Texas. I mean, we're starting to hit negative, below zero wind chills in the panhandle of Texas. And that's going to be taken over, start to take over more southern places by then. But man, we're still going to be dealing with that. This cold air is not going to go away anytime soon. I'll show you why at the end of this video. And this cold air is locked into place. I mean, even still by Thursday, we were talking still 40 below zero wind chills for the northern interior. So this cold air is just it's going to be a long duration event. And so as we even continue through Sunday, now we see those colder air temperatures all the way down to the deep south, to the Rio Grande Valley. I mean, wind chills of 20 degrees all the way for, like, say, Brownsville. So that's some serious Arctic air that's going to be taking over much of the U.S. It basically traverses south and then eventually pushes east. But yeah, look at the wind chills back behind it, even by Sunday. So this is just not going to go away anytime soon. So even as we get extended into the weekend, you can see definitely more snow and ice setups as we continue getting into, later in the last half of the week, especially over the weekend. And yeah, look at these lows down further south. That's what's going to set the stage for these overriding conditions for the deep south. And take a look at some of the snowfall totals, kind of expanding the view for pretty much the entire United States, kind of give you an idea of this active pattern that we're going to be in store for the next 10 days. Yeah, look at this. Look at all this snow that's happening. Anywhere you can see this classic cross-polar flow setup and going into the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, and this will continue to press southward as we continue going into the later on last half of the week of next week into next weekend. And yeah, unfortunately, there'll be an ice setup for these particular events. I mean, this is very shallow air. When you have shallow air, when you have low pressures running across the south, you've got overriding conditions, and that will unfortunately set the stage for ice all the way down into Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, getting to Georgia. So yeah, all these southern regions could be setting up for snow for the deep south, but unfortunately ice more prevalent in the deep south as well. And as we take a look at the liquid precipitation, look at the kind of the dry slot here. This is where your Arctic air is. The Arctic air is your coldest air, but it's also your driest air. So when these wind chills are hitting, 40, 50, almost 60 degrees below zero, those regular temperatures are also 30 degrees below zero, and it's very dry up there. So there's not really expecting too much precipitation, but you can see where the precipitation will flow with this cross-polar flow setup. We've got, higher amounts into the mountain regions of the Northwest, but you can definitely see where the Southern Oscillation Index is going to be coming active in that southern branch from, say, Texas all the way down to the south, where a lot of this could fall as ice. But here's snow, rain, and ice. But there's a lot of liquid precipitation to work with this setup over the next 10 days. So let me kind of expand the view and why is this happening? So I've been getting a lot of questions on this. And so here's kind of a broader view. Here's the North American, so where you can really kind of get a feel of why this setup is the way it is. So here's the anomalies for the next, say 6 days. I mean, here's blocking. You have blocking. You have your classic blocking, west-based negative NAO. You have a ridge, but you also have a ridge that's coming across Alaska. That sets the stage for the funnel effect. I mean, this is straight from Siberia, and that will create the funnel effect. And all these pink areas are almost off the chart anomalies. So that is your Arctic air penetrating and going further south as we get locked into this pattern. Because as we continue going in all the way in through, say, the middle of the month, say the 16th, this cold air does not go anyway. In fact, it even intensifies even further and takes over much of the central U.S., going all the way down to the coast. And then eventually this will expand eastward. But by the time the 16th rolls around, even Florida will start feeling the effects from this Arctic air, obviously on a modified form. But you can see these pink anomalies. These are well below average temperatures, 20, 30, 40 degrees below average temperatures for February. So that is some very cold air that's going to be locked into place. And this is over an extended period of time. This is through the 16th. So you're talking 10 days from now. If the Arctic air starts, say, on Tuesday in Oklahoma, that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. As we go through even extend the view until, say, the 20th, these colder anomalies are still around, say, Oklahoma City. So by the 20th, and today's only the 6th. So if it starts freezing by the time Tuesday going into Tuesday on Oklahoma City, they could be below freezing in Oklahoma City for like 2 weeks. So this is definitely some colder air that's going to be blocked. They have blocking in place. It's not going to go away anytime soon, but this will eventually shift off into the east, and then these set up these colder anomalies as further eastward. So yeah, it's definitely some colder air that's going to be locked into place for an extended period of time. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.